All right, everyone, welcome back. We're diving into Andrew Kagan's tech newsletter, the one from December 13th, 2024.
It's kind of like a cheat sheet for, what's really going on in tech.
Yeah, it's like a quick snapshot of all the things that we should be paying attention to, right?
Yeah.
Azure, Microsoft 365, AI, security. He covers it all.
I always find some little golden nuggets in there, something that I wasn't really aware of.
Yeah, and we're going to try and unpack all of those golden nuggets for you and make sense of them. We might even give you some ideas you can use in your own work.
Yeah, exactly. It's random technical news you can possibly use. That's what he calls it, so.
That's the tagline. All right, so where do we want to start with this one?
Well, let's start with Azure. John Sabel, he has this video on the December 6th Azure update. And one thing he points out is the general availability of Azure Premium SSD V2 disks.
Okay, Premium SSD V2 disks. Why should we care about that?
Well, these disks are designed for I/O-intensive workloads, and they offer much better performance compared to, the previous generation. So think faster databases, snappier virtual machines. Things just basically run smoother and quicker.
So for someone who's dealing with large data sets or performance-critical applications, this is a big deal.
Absolutely. And, Andrew doesn't just stop there. He also mentions these community stand-up videos about logic apps and zone redundancy on Azure App Service. And these videos are great because they provide tips and insights, right from the people who are actually building these services.
Oh, that's cool. It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at how it all works.
Exactly.
All right, so what else is catching your eye in this week's newsletter?
Well, let's talk about Microsoft 365, specifically OneDrive. Remember all that buzz about those Copilot features?
Yeah, is it actually happening? Are they coming to OneDrive?
They are. They're finally landing in OneDrive.
Okay, so what can we do with Copilot in OneDrive?
Well, imagine being able to use natural language commands to, find files, summarize documents, even generate content right within OneDrive.
Wow, that sounds like it could be a game changer.
There's a recap video of OneDrive's year in review, and they talk about unlicensed user changes in there. But there's also this other video that actually shows you how to use these Copilot features, and it even explains how it all fits into the Microsoft 365 Center of Excellence.
So it's not just about making OneDrive smarter, it's about integrating AI into the whole Microsoft 365 ecosystem.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked Azure, we've talked Microsoft 365. What about Power Platform and Dynamics 365? Anything interesting happening there?
Oh, there's a lot going on there, especially if you're into AI and citizen development.
I'm interested in that. What's going on?
Well, Andrew highlights a video about using Dataverse as a knowledge source in Copilot Studio. So essentially, you can use your data to build AI-powered applications without even writing code.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you don't have to be a programmer to create some really powerful tools.
Right. And it even gets easier than that. Microsoft is now offering pre-built agents in Copilot Studio. So these are basically ready-made AI components you can just plug into your applications.
So it's like having a toolbox full of AI building blocks. That's amazing.
It is, and there's a video that actually shows you how to use them. But for those who want to, go beyond the pre-built stuff and create their own custom solutions, there are videos for that too. One shows you how to create custom agents using SharePoint files.
Oh, so you can use your existing content as the brains behind these AI agents.
That's exactly it. And then another video goes into how to securely connect customers to these agents using Entra ID and Copilot Studio.
Yeah.
It seems like Microsoft is really serious about, making AI accessible to more people.
Yeah, that's really interesting. All right, so moving on. What about DevOps, SRE, infrastructure? Anything interesting in that realm?
Yeah, so Andrew starts off by talking about solving some of the challenges with infrastructure as code, which is something a lot of developers struggle with.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else?
He also includes a resource on chunking strategies for optimizing LLMs.
Okay, I'm going to need you to explain that one. What are LLMs and why do we need to chunk them?
LLMs are large language models, basically the brains behind tools like ChatGPT. They can process tons of data, but sometimes, for really complex tasks, you need to break down the input into smaller chunks so the LLMs can handle it better.
So it's like giving them bite-sized pieces of information instead of overwhelming them with everything at once.
Exactly. And then, this one might seem a little out of place, but it's actually really important. He includes an article about the limitations of GPS.
Oh, interesting. Why is that relevant in a tech newsletter?
Well, it's a good reminder that, even the technologies we use every day, they have their quirks and limitations. And that's really important for developers, especially those who are building applications that rely on location data.
Yeah, so if you're building an app that uses GPS, you need to be aware of the potential problems that could come up.
Absolutely. Oh, and before we move on, there's one more thing. He has a resource on building secure containers with clean base images. Basically, it's a guide on how to bake security into your development process right from the start.
So it's not just about building cool stuff, it's about building it securely.
Exactly. All right, are you ready to dive into the world of data and AI?
I think so. Let's do it.
All right, so Andrew starts off by talking about multi-agent AI applications. This is kind of a new area where you have, a bunch of smaller AI agents working together instead of one big one trying to do everything.
So it's like having a team of AI specialists, each with their own expertise, collaborating on a project.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it can be really powerful for solving complex problems. It's still early days, but there's a resource he shared that goes into the top frameworks for building these multi-agent systems.
That sounds pretty cutting edge.
It is. And then, we can't talk about AI without talking about Meta. They recently open sourced their LLM, Llama 3.3, which is supposed to be both compact and really powerful.
Wait, Meta? Like Facebook, they're doing AI stuff now.
Oh, yeah, they are. And they're making some big moves in the AI world. The fact that Llama 3.3 is open source means that anyone can use it, which could really speed up innovation.
Wow, so this could be a game changer for smaller companies or individuals who don't have the resources to build their own AI models.
Yeah, exactly. It could really level the playing field. But while we're all excited about these new AI developments, Andrew reminds us that, good old SQL is still relevant.
Really? SQL? I thought that was kind of old school.
It might be, but it's still incredibly powerful and widely used. There's this video he includes that helps you level up your SQL workflow in VS Code.
So there's still new tricks to learn, even with something like SQL.
Definitely. And then for those who are more into low-code development, he has details about SQL database in Microsoft Fabric, which basically makes SQL more accessible for people who aren't necessarily coding experts.
Oh, interesting. So they're trying to make SQL easier to use for a wider audience.
Exactly. And then there's a breakdown of what data engineers and data scientists actually do, which I thought was really helpful for anyone who's considering a career in data.
Yeah, that could be really useful for people who are trying to figure out what path to take.
And last but not least, he links to this interview with Mustafa Suleyman, the co-founder of DeepMind.
DeepMind. Oh, yeah. Weren't they behind that program that beat the world champion at Go?
That's right, AlphaGo. And in this interview, Suleyman talks about some pretty mind-blowing concepts like AI companions and infinite memory. It's like a glimpse into the future of what AI could become.
Wow, that sounds almost like science fiction. Okay, so we've covered Azure, Microsoft 365, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, DevOps, and now data and AI. What's next?
Security.
Yeah, security, compliance, and privacy. With all this amazing technology emerging, security is more important than ever. And Andrew jumps right into it by discussing Defender for Endpoint RDP telemetry.
Oh, you lost me. What is that?
Basically, it's a feature that monitors RDP connections for any suspicious activity. RDP, as in remote desktop connections.
Exactly. So if someone is trying to remotely access your systems and they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, Defender for Endpoint will flag it. There's a video that explains how it all works and how you can use it to improve your security.
Okay, so it's like having a security guard watching over all your remote access points.
Exactly. And speaking of security, you know who's making an appearance again?
Let me guess, Copilot.
You got it. This time, Andrew talks about the features of Azure Network Security plugins in Copilot for Security. These plugins let Copilot use threat intelligence to find potential vulnerabilities.
So it's like having an AI-powered security analyst constantly scanning your systems for weaknesses.
Yep, that's a good way to put it. And he stresses the importance of good prompt engineering when you're using Copilot for security, meaning, you have to ask the right questions to get the best results.
Yeah, you can't just say, hey, Copilot, make my system secure. You have to be more specific.
Exactly. And then, this is a little scary, there's this new tool out there that lets attackers actually run commands on your systems through Microsoft Teams.
Wait, what? Through Teams? Seriously?
Yeah, it's pretty serious. It just shows you that security threats can come from anywhere. We think of Teams as just a collaboration platform, but it can be used for malicious stuff too, so definitely something to be aware of.
Yeah, that's a little unsettling. All right, so what else is in this packed newsletter?
Well, we've got to talk about learning and certifications.
Always a good idea. What's he got for us this week?
He starts off with a classic, a Hyper-V overview video by John Saville. If you're new to Hyper-V, this is a great place to start. John Saville explains things really well, even if you're not a tech expert.
Oh yeah, John Saville's great. He's like the Bob Ross of Azure. Makes even complex stuff seem easy.
Haha, I like that. And for anyone who's interested in Python, he includes a recording from Azure developers, Python Day 2024.
Sounds like a good way to catch up on what's happening with Python and Azure.
And if you're looking for some holiday gifts, he has a list of some top cybersecurity books.
Nice. Or maybe just a little something for myself. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What about the big picture? Any industry news and trends we should be aware of?
Yeah, so Andrew points us to an article called Big Ideas in Tech for 2025, which gives some insights into what we can expect to see in the coming year.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of these big ideas?
One of the key themes is ambient computing, where technology becomes more integrated into our surroundings. So think smart homes, connected cars, wearables, all working together to create a more personalized experience.
So technology fades into the background and becomes more of an invisible helper.
Exactly. And then, of course, AI is going to keep evolving. We've already talked about Copilot and LLMs, but AI is going to be even more integrated into our lives in 2025.
Yeah.
Healthcare, education, finance, entertainment, you name it.
Yeah, it's both exciting and a little scary to think about how much AI is going to change our world. Speaking of mind-blowing tech, what about that Willow quantum chip from Google?
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Quantum computing has the potential to completely change so many fields, from drug discovery to financial modeling, and Google's Willow chip is a big step toward making quantum computing more practical.
So we're not quite at the point where we all have quantum computers on our desks, but we're getting closer.
We're definitely getting closer. And finally, for all you AI enthusiasts out there, OpenAI's Sora video generation tool is going public.
Sora. I don't think I've heard of that one. What does it do?
Well, imagine being able to create realistic videos just by describing what you want to see. That's what Sora does. It generates videos based on text prompts, which could really change how we create and share stories.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like having an AI filmmaker at your fingertips.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground in this first part of our deep dive into Andrew Kagan's newsletter. It's amazing how much is happening in the tech world.
It is. There's always something new to learn and explore.
Absolutely. We'll be back soon to dive even deeper into some of these topics. Stay tuned.
See you in a bit. So we're back and ready to keep digging into this newsletter.
Yeah, there's still so much to talk about. I'm still kind of hung up on those Azure Premium SSD V2 disks. Faster processing for large data sets. I mean, that's like music to my ears.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a game changer for anything that's really data intensive. But, stepping back a bit, what did you think about those community stand-up videos? I really like how open Microsoft seems to be about their process with Azure.
Yeah, it's like they're inviting developers to be part of the conversation, share their experiences and learn from each other.
Totally. And those videos are packed with really practical information. Speaking of practical, how about Copilot in OneDrive? Have you wrapped your head around that yet?
Oh yeah, I'm already dreaming of all the time I could save. Imagine being able to find any file in seconds or get a quick summary of a long document. That's AI doing the heavy lifting.
It's like a productivity superpower. But I think it's also important to remember that this is just one piece of the puzzle, right? Microsoft is putting Copilot everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen it in Dynamics 365, in the security tools.
Yeah.
And now OneDrive. It's like they're weaving AI into everything they do.
And I think that's going to have a huge impact on how we work, how we use technology, the whole 9 yards. It's a really interesting trend.
Definitely something to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that citizen development stuff from the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 section. That whole idea of empowering people to build their own AI applications is fascinating.
I think it's brilliant. It's like Microsoft is saying, you don't need to be a coding whiz to harness the power of AI.
It's pretty exciting. But do you think there are any risks involved with giving people that much power? I mean, what if people start creating AI applications that are, harmful or unethical?
That's a really good point. I think with any powerful tool, there's always the potential for misuse. It's crucial to have safeguards in place, like ethical guidelines and governance structures.
So it's not just about making the technology accessible, it's about making sure it's used responsibly.
Exactly. Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about DevOps and infrastructure. Did you get to that article about chunking strategies for LLMs? It's pretty technical, but I thought it was really insightful.
Yeah, I did. It's crazy to think that we're now having to come up with strategies to manage these incredibly complex AI models.
I know, it's like we're training the trainers. But it makes sense. These LLMs are so powerful, we need to figure out how to use them effectively. What about that GPS article? Did that catch your eye?
Oh yeah, I thought that was a good reality check.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget that even the technologies we use every day, like GPS, they have their limits.
Exactly. And for developers who are building apps that rely on location data, they really need to be aware of those limitations. Otherwise, you could end up with some pretty big problems.
Right. Okay, let's circle back to the data and AI world. Those multi-agent AI systems, those sound incredibly complex.
Yeah, they can be, but think of it like building a house. You wouldn't have one person trying to do everything, right? You'd have electricians, plumbers, carpenters, all these specialists working together.
So multi-agent AI is kind of like that. You have different AI agents, each with their own specialty, working together to solve a problem.
Exactly. And this approach allows you to combine the strengths of different AI models and build more sophisticated and scalable systems. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Sounds like it. Okay, what about Meta open sourcing their Llama 3.3 LLM? That seems like a really big deal. Do you think this could disrupt the AI landscape?
Potentially, yeah. By making a powerful LLM, like this open source, they're making AI technology more accessible to a much wider group of people.
It's like opening the floodgates for AI innovation.
Exactly. It'll be really interesting to see what people do with it. But while we're all gushing over these fancy new AI toys, Andrew reminds us that good old SQL is still a workhorse in the data world.
I know, right? It's like that reliable old friend who never lets you down.
Exactly. And that video on how to improve your SQL workflow in VS Code, that's pure gold. Even if you're already comfortable with SQL, there are always new tricks to learn.
And for people who are just starting out, that information about SQL database and Microsoft Fabric seems like a good way to dip their toes in the water without having to learn all the complex stuff.
It's all about making technology more user-friendly and giving people the tools they need to work with data. What did you think about that interview with Mustafa Suleyman, the DeepMind guy?
I gotta admit, some of his ideas, like AI companions and infinite memory, they kind of creep me out a little bit.
I get it. It's a little unsettling to think about AI becoming that advanced, but potentially even surpassing human capabilities. But it's also really exciting. It's like we're standing on the edge of a whole new era.
True. And as much as I love geeking out over all the cool new tech, I appreciate that Andrew also brings up the bigger questions, like the ethical implications of AI and how we make sure it benefits humanity.
Yeah, those are important conversations to have. We need to make sure that we're developing and using AI in a responsible way.
Okay, enough philosophy for now. Let's talk about security. I was particularly interested in those Azure Network Security plugins for Copilot. It's like having an AI security guard watching over your systems.
Right. That's pretty impressive. But, as Andrew pointed out, it's not a silver bullet. We still need human expertise to interpret the data and make decisions.
Absolutely. It's not about replacing humans, it's about giving them better tools. What about that tool that lets attackers run commands through Microsoft Teams? That one kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, that was a scary one. It just goes to show that you can never be too careful when it comes to security.
You got to stay vigilant. Okay, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk about something more fun learning and certifications.
Yeah.
I'm always up for a good John Saville video. He's such a great explainer.
Agreed. And for anyone who's looking for some last-minute gift ideas, those cybersecurity books that Andrew recommended seem like a good bet. Or maybe a gift for yourself. Okay, big picture time. What are your thoughts on those big ideas in tech for 2025? It's amazing how fast technology is moving these days.
I know, right? It's exciting, but also a little overwhelming. I feel like I can barely keep up.
Me too. But I think that's why newsletters like Andrew's are so valuable. They help us stay on top of what's happening and prepare for the future.
Well said. Okay, before we wrap up this part, I want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on all this? What are you most excited about? What are you worried about? Let us know in the comments.
We'd love to hear from you. And be sure to stick around for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll tie everything together and leave you with some food for thought.
Welcome back, everyone. We've made it to the final part of our deep dive into Andrew Kagan's tech newsletter. Man, we've covered so much ground. Azure, AI, quantum computing, even a little bit of philosophy. Where do you even want to start wrapping this up?
Well, I think it's safe to say the world of tech never slows down. There's always something new and exciting just around the corner. Like, seriously, that Willow quantum chip from Google, it's still blowing my mind.
I know, right? It feels like we're on the verge of a whole new era of computing. And then you have things like OpenAI Sora, that video generation tool. Just think about the creative possibilities with that.
It's crazy. But, it's easy to get caught up in all the shiny new gadgets and gizmos. I think it's important to step back and think about the bigger picture, too. Like, how is all this technology going to impact our lives?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just about building cool stuff. It's about using that technology responsibly and making sure it benefits society as a whole. And I think that's something that Andrew's newsletter always does a good job of highlighting. He doesn't just focus on the technical details. He also makes us think about the implications of those advancements.
Yeah, he definitely encourages us to look beyond the hype and consider the ethical and societal implications of all this cool new tech.
Right, because it's not just up to the tech companies or the governments to figure this out. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of technology.
Absolutely. I mean, staying informed about the latest developments is a good start. But we can also advocate for responsible innovation and think critically about how we use technology in our own lives.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to hear your biggest takeaway from this week's newsletter. What's the one thing that really stuck with you?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the convergence of all these different technologies. We're seeing AI, cloud computing, quantum computing, all these things coming together in ways that we could never have imagined just a few years ago.
It's a wild time to be alive, that's for sure.
It is, and it's up to us to make sure we're using this technology wisely and steering it in a direction that benefits humanity as a whole.
Yeah, well said. Big thanks to Andrew Kagan for giving us so much to think about this week.
As always.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative, insightful, and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
And keep those conversations going. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're excited about, what you're worried about. The future of tech is something we all need to be talking about.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep asking those big questions.
See you on the next Deep Dive.